Greetings and good evening, friends, and welcome to the best Wednesday has to offer, at least at this part of the evening. We have, of course, with us the guest of the hour, the man of the hour, and the person that's forgotten more about Hollywood secrets than I could possibly remember. I'm not sure what he remembers, but he's here, and we'll find out. How are you doing this evening?
If these walls could speak, the walls of my brain, I mean, but I remember Clarence Birdseye. I remember.
Wow. Wow.
Anyway, Amarcord. I remember. There you
Hey, tonight, folks, we have a new choice for the jukebox, so don't forget to check the description down below.
We forgot it 2 weeks ago, and last week we gave you two.
We gave you two, and
this time,
you have 2 hours of incredible music.
2 hours and 21 minutes of 50 Ennio Morricone Western themes.
Yeah.
So all the ones you know, and a lot of them you don't that you should, and just put on your spurs and get out your ocarina and
I would go to sleep. That's a soundtrack for nappy time for me. But
there you go.
I'm a little weird, but folks,
I actually, I have a player piano, and I have a piano roll of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And, on piano rolls, they put the lyrics over on the side. And it actually has rip, rup, and all those grunts that they make, transliterated on the roll. So that's always been kind of fun to
That's
sing along
amazing. With. That's amazing. Well, I just want to say thank you to all the great folks we have waiting in our audience. Thank you for being here this evening. For those of you who raided over here from hanging out with Pro, much appreciated. This is your Wednesday night relax segment, let's say, because we're going to talk about Hollywood in a way that, well, only somebody like Lou could talk about Hollywood as being one of the greats.
There's a lot who could. There are a few who would.
That's also true, especially the way you talk about the folks that are there. Oh, yeah. It's one of the reasons you got away from there as soon as you could. But we've got you and Kumia out there. Juliet, it's great to see you, dear. Thank you for wrenching away. Eric is here. Good to see you, Eric. And, of course, we've got a few other folks rolling through the door, like B-Man.
And the wonderful wrenches, too, Juliet and Tom, and we love you guys.
And B-Man, and everybody out there that's got a wrench. We got Kid Cat with a Kit Kat, and, we're out here doing it live. Bobby Rafferty out there. We've got O2RR, and look at all these folks coming in. LDF, I cannot believe you guys are you're up for a little more news, I see. So, we got our friend Lou and Culture. Thank you, Izzy. R.L. Hopper, who scored that scored a membership over on the Pro channel. So congratulations on that.
Hoppity Hoopa. Remember Hoppity Hooper?
The Hoopa.
I could even sing the theme song if I dared, but I don't.
Mark is out there. Good to see you. And Chaka.
Chacobaban.
Okay. Right, well, welcome.
I don't
know. Hey, there's Tom. We mentioned you already.
Yeah.
A few others.
Tom, the answer tomorrow is yes, but I don't know what time, so try me.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple supers to get to early. My goodness, the generosity is already flowing. We have a fantastic audience here tonight. I'm going to tell you the overall theme is going to be Disney, except for one place, which is just generic Tinseltown. But let's acknowledge this one first. Lou?
Well, the makers of the halftime show need to relearn the lesson of Babel. Either speak with one language and reach amazing heights, or languish in foul gibberish.
Wow.
To which they would say, are those my only two choices? Let me think about it.
Well, I mean, they had a tower. I'm just...
I remember once hearing one of these motivational guys who was pushing network marketing, and he said he got so tired of people asking him, was it a pyramid scheme, that he said, yes, it is, but we've made a deal with the prosecutors that we can do it for 3 years before they'll close down on us, and we'll make enough money in the meanwhile. And after his talk, a lawyer in the audience came up to him and said, how many years did you say they'd let you do it? So, there's always somebody trying to play the angles.
Oh, I love it. Mark Daly, thank you for your generous contribution. And no, I think this is excellent. I think it's a point well made. So, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with that at some point. And I don't think it's anytime soon. Next year, Disney gets the Super Bowl. So
all I could think of in the clips that I saw of it was that wall of sugarcane reminded me of, maybe if you rum it, they will come. It was kind of like Field of Dreams, only told me otherwise.
Well, they lost a lot of corn to a baseball field, but it paid off in the long run. So I will not ridicule, but I will say a big shout out and thank you to Snarky, the Stink Nugget out there for another 20 in super chat.
Snarky recently decided to become a part of my Patreon, for which I thank
Oh,
you, Snarky.
no way.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Amazing. And by the way, we have to promote LEW'S Patreon. It's brilliant. Recently, he put something together today. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we're reacting the way we are with the stories we've got. So thank you for that, Lew.
I've got 3 ready to go up that I have to sort of think through one more time before because everything I do is spontaneous, but it's not rehearsed, it's not written, but it is pondered deeply before I commit it to audio.
Somebody remembers Hop Along.
I do too. Bill Boyd. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Fascinating guy.
Can you imagine if you were living the lifetime of someone like Kurt Russell? Think of the generations that you saw in Hollywood, some of the greats. It would knock me over with a feather. It just that career.
If you ever go to LA, be sure to wear an AK-47 in your hair. But if you go to the Gene Autry Western Heritage Museum in Griffith Park, they have a whole section on 50s Westerns. Yeah. And there is, in a glass case, a typical kid's bedroom where everything, the bedspread, the lunchbox, the lamp, everything is Hopalong Cassidy. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the Western theming in some of the places that you can still find is pretty amazing. But we got another super duper chat. This one's for you, my friend.
Lewis, I love your intro song with the life man. I can't remember why. I don't. It's something generic that Jonas found, and they kept bringing me some, and I'm saying no. What you need is that kind of theater organ. Hooray for Hollywood! Another opening kind of. And they finally found it, but I don't know where they got it. It's purchased, but it's not from anything except the mind of a generic music maker.
And to answer Mark's question, tonight I am still hung up on the Calavet. This is a Pinot Noir. It's got
good stuff.
Yeah, it's I pick it for a reason, kids, and I buy high quality stuff. Good hooch. Because I don't get much of it.
Tonight I got in the mood for a Jamocha milkshake from Baskin Robbins, but I gave a little shot of bottled and bond bourbon to wake it up a little, and that's what I had tonight.
Ooh, okay. Well, I might go look for a rock and some whiskey in different circumstances, so we can someday talk about that. But you and I are going to talk about wine in the very near
future. We keep
future.
threatening to. One of these days we'll actually have to do it. But
it's going to happen. We're going to.
It may happen more than once. In fact,
it's going to have. I have a many much bottles. But we can definitely walk through it, talk through it, and enjoy it over there on your Patreon.
If I could talk to the vintages, read their languages.
If I could talk to the vintages. Oh, I love this show so much. But we're going to start with a story that, well, somebody isn't loving, and he would be the guy that used to run the Disney company. Now, I found it, and I'm going to say this because I'm going to leave you with this. Are you ready? Okay. I found that Iger's exit was a bit hasty.
Precipitous. Is that the word you were looking for?
Precipitous is an even better word. Yes. And I'm not the only one that was a bit suspicious because our friend WDW Pro wrote a story, right after it happened about the fact that all of a sudden he was there and then gone again. And literally that's what this guy's career is.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. The wonderful thumbnail you created for tonight's show made the top of the clapper stick look like a razor at his throat, and I thought, there's a lot to this, and we know nothing, Colonel Hogan, nothing. We are only speculating. This is not fact. This is only conjecture. I must stress that because nobody's shown me the books. But here is my crazy conspiracy theory, since everybody seems to have one. Remember all the years that those other guys were in charge in Washington, and they never released any of the Epstein documents.
Right. Yeah. Island Boy. Yeah.
And people now said, well, obviously there's nothing in them about Trump as much as you'd like to pretend, or you would have released them.
Right.
Well, maybe not, because maybe there's stuff about other people is the question.
It's the protection of others and not necessarily the person that they were hoping was going to be
Well,
there. And then
what we learned was 2012, Bob had a deal going to have excursions from the cruise line go, what was it?
yeah.
Turtle riding or something?
Yeah,
on a conspicuously similar island to the one in question.
Conspicuously the same island. Yeah. And look, it was they actually name it in the documents.
But I mean the real name, the geographic name, not the nickname of Fantasy Island. But
right. And remember, this was back when Disney's regular routes with its 2 boats included just the short Caribbean hop or the long Caribbean hop.
Right.
And one of them going to the U.S. Virgin Islands that included St. Bart's.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. So again, you and I were familiar with these documents, or I was, because I patronized.
So the question becomes, was it, rather than giving Bob a stage from which to launch his much vaunted dream of being the liberal Donald Trump, in other words, the business leader who rides to the top of the political ladder, was instead covering his butt for his relationship, however it was, with bad people? Yeah. I don't know, but I do know the fact that it all sort of started to come out here, and then he was instantly gone in 60 seconds is suspicious.
And it wasn't even as good. It wasn't even as good as the Nick Cage movie. But I'll just say that nobody covered this. Literally, Pro was right. Nobody was talking about the fact that he was just gone, curiouser and curiouser, with more contract to cover. And so he was supposed to be there through the end of this year, December of 2026. And thus his replacement would be announced in the first half of this year, apprentice under Iger, and then transition out of power and into a different position.
And supposedly he still has this consulting contract, through 2030 or something crazy like
I think it is 2030 or 2033 was the long date I'd heard, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But there's another aspect to this that I pointed out to you and our friends backstage, but haven't shared with the world yet because I saved it for all of you. And that has to do with money.
Yeah.
As we know, this new arrangement with Josh and Dana, she's actually on paper making more money than he does. Now, by the time they do all the bonuses and whatever, it won't be that way. But let me tell you something about Hollywood bosses and moguls and mini moguls and maxi moguls and all that kind of stuff.
And mob malls.
Well, all I'm going to say is that number of what you're officially getting paid, that is the genital comparison number amongst the greats.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a measurement for sure.
And so the fact that they gave him this smaller number and her not that much more, now it may be that Disney's attitude is, well, we don't have any deals with the other studios, so it doesn't matter. But it sure mattered when it was Bob and they were all at Davos, or it was Bob and they were all at some conference. And they have basically relegated Disney to second-class citizenship amongst the studios, period, by doing it this way.
Billionaires Boys Camp up in Montana is usually where they do the measuring contest. And Bob was trying to pretend he was a tech guy. And I mean that's when he kept pushing the board for a bigger chunk of salary,
which suddenly makes him competing with Apple and Bill
Gates, he can't compete with Tim Cook. He tries, but he doesn't have an app where he can restrict the news to just one
Sergey or anybody in that level. We're a tech company, honest. We've got a robot that every once in a while works flying across as Spider-Man.
Well, and again. The differences in the bonus numbers for sure. I mean, 250% bonus to 200% bonus, because that's what Dana ended up with. But she ended up with a bigger chunk of money, which told me the balance of power at Disney changed, and the CEO is no longer going to have the biggest.
And what's interesting is the title they gave her of creative. Now, just imagine for a minute the last successful pairing of Disney leadership, which would have been Michael Eisner and Frank Wells.
Wells. Yeah.
So imagine that Wells was the number one and Eisner was the number two. Would that make any sense to anybody? because that's kind of what they're saying with the way they set this up.
Yeah.
They're saying that the creative person is the person whose divisions consistently have lost money, and the financial guy is now the official leader whose divisions made money by selling stuff overseas because they didn't want to spend it at home. So it's a very screwed up situation, gang. It is. And if you don't think that Johnston and Gorman know better, they do. They sure do. They sure do.
They do. And look, for how long are these contracts? I can't imagine longer than the 3-year cycle.
Yeah, but these people who say, "Oh yeah, well it'll all fall apart within a year or two," no, it won't.
No,
because that would make the board people look bad. They have to back it the way it is.
But these people trying to get along, there might be a lot of internal strife that spills out, which I suspect. But let me read a little bit of this story because, I mean, Pro did take the time to write it, and says that even though media seem reluctant to touch on whatever took place behind the scenes, signs point to rapid movement to get rid of Bob Iger that unfolded over the last few weeks. Once again, Disney has initiated a secession plan that is going anything but according to plan. This is 2 of these oopsies in a row, because they kind of rushed Bob out the last time when Bob saw the writing on the wall and everybody else saw that there might be some issues starting over in China that would affect the whole globe at some point. In fact, if you think back to even before that, and I know you do, Lou, do you remember how many CEOs stepped out of their jobs in 2019 and 2020?
Yeah, a whole bunch.
Yeah, it was like the mass migration of CEOs out of their positions.
It's almost as many as are leaving California for anywhere else.
Right now. If you notice that, I mean, the entire left coast, the west coast of the United States, are all headed elsewhere now. I wonder why that is.
Gosh, I guess they don't want to pay their fair share, as their friends would say, of taxes, right?
Yep. And so since he left sooner rather than later, the speculation is that there are bigger troubles in Disney than we've been led to believe. What do you think, Lou? What do you think?
Well, I think we may know a lot of it, but we'll never know all of it. And they will try very hard to make sure we don't. And it's all a question of how aggressive stockholders get. You never know when one of these big companies that owns a whole hell of a lot of stock. I've been saying this since the whole Nelson Peltz thing. Sooner or later, they have to balance their own credibility with their investors against their official position with the management.
Now it's curiouser and curiouser that you seem to be reading my mind, because next up on the conversation points is what Nelson Peltz had to say.
Yeah.
So Nelson claims that Josh D'Amaro was chosen as Disney CEO because Bob Iger needs a reason to stay on. That's pretty smart thinking.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Of course, he's got no skin in the game anymore, but still.
No, he took his profit and left.
Yeah, and then you have to wonder a little bit about him, because apparently, financially speaking, the Sphere, which is owned by his company, Madison Square Garden, is losing money hand over fist in Vegas, and they just announced they're going to build several more of them.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a leveraged capital position to try to make the best of a bad situation. I think anything like that is a gamble, in especially in Vegas, when you're not even on the Strip, you're off the Strip, and you're trying to pull people from the Strip casinos into your,
Well, but the question was, if you sold it out every night 24/7, would it still make money? And the answer was sometime in the far off future, because of what they had to spend to build it. So, I don't know. And the cost, let's not underestimate. It's one thing to put a band in there, and that works.
Yeah.
But that whole Wizard of Oz thing that they did,
that didn't work out well.
That cost a fortune to do.
Well, because they have to create all of this never before created material that will jive with what's existing on the screen.
Well, exactly. And all of those original, elements that they have from the original film are in formats that are not terribly compatible with that situation. So they have to be digitally fiddled with by very skillful people over a long period of time.
And
It's complicated.
And every show they create, regardless if it's in honoring an old movie or some such, even if it's with a band, they have to create all those assets for the very first time.
Yeah.
So it is giant, intensive amounts of work. The maintenance is grueling. If you know anybody who's ever worked there, it's surprising how much they have to spend.
Every time you see a project like that and they announce there are 1.43 million lights, what you have to think about is, and how many guys do you need to change them when they burn out? And how many guys do you need to test to make sure they haven't burned out? And how many are you willing to let go out before the quality degrades? You know, it's like when the flat screens first came out, and it was, well, there's X number of pixels that aren't going to light up because the things are defective.
Yeah.
So
and the backlighting was inconsistent, so you'd get, you know, shadows and other artifacts and things. So, and that's the same problem with everything they're seeing there, both internally in the screens inside and externally in the screens outside.
It's the whole, you went to an IMAX movie, where did you want to sit? Up high, down low, in the middle, on the side. That all matters to how you perceive the results. So, and certainly goes back to Cinerama that way. So
true. So back to this real quick. We'll cover this and we'll get back to our audience because you deserve it, guys. We're not going to leave you hanging. But Nelson Peltz is again taking aim at Disney. He doesn't have skin in the game, as Lou pointed out, because he doesn't own a position here. But his blunt assessment of the Succession decision, he suggested that the move had less to do with the corporate strategy, more to do with keeping Bob Iger firmly in power behind the scenes, just like what they did with Chapek, which is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Lou, do you think this is a successful strategy or no?
Well, look, they had to give it to the guy who brought in the money. And with this deal in Arabia, Josh brought in the money. That's what's going to pay for this company for the next 4, 5, 6 years while they fiddle around in Walt Disney World trying to get the regular parks to something close to. Although I have to say, respect and credit where it's due,
right,
that what we've seen from what's his name, the guy who flies over all the time, why can't I think of his name? BioRedirect or whatever it is.
Yeah, BioReconstruct. Yeah,
Reconstruct. The stuff in tropical Americas and etc. is going up pretty darn fast.
Well, I mean,
surprisingly fast to me.
Okay, so now you and I both know that under Iger and his strict CapEx strategy that he kind of enforced upon everybody that, you know, moved into the bean counter position as part of the parks conversation, he wanted them to divide up the expenses, the CapEx, across multiple quarters to make everything look better on the books. Because he had overspent on the acquisition of Fox, it's put Disney kind of in a disadvantageous position because they couldn't do what Universal was going to do or was doing down the street.
They were paying for Universal to do what they were doing by the money they put into Hulu.
Well, also true, but look, $70 billion is no joke, right? It was more than that Disney put into a deal that has not increased the size or the quality of Disney in one iota.
And a deal with lots of very fertile IP that they have religiously ignored.
Squandered.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so if you're unfamiliar with just how much money got wasted, it was ridiculous. They paid $40 billion more than they should have. It's the same situation that we're going to see with whoever gets Warner Brothers Discovery, because I do believe Paramount's willing to overpay and Netflix is going to have to pull the ripcord soon because their stock isn't exactly dancing. So anyway, back to this conversation. So I really do feel like they can now spend money in a way that Josh wasn't allowed to do when he was head of parks. So it's not surprising that everything's going up like Jiffy Pop in the given areas of the park, including filing for permits for the small stream that used to be the rivers of America. So I'm just, you understand what I'm saying, though, is that,
when parks are like people, when
Yeah.
you get older, your stream size diminishes. So what can I say? It's the trickle down theory of theme parks.
That's a trickle down. That's terrible. And look, it's bad. It's a bad look for the parks. It's a bad situation for the parks. Let's not pretend. Nothing's ever going to look the same, and nothing's going to work quite right. And that area of the park is going to feel rather hollow and incomplete for decades to come.
Well, it's also a question of how you decide on the timeline for maintenance. And I'll tell you what I mean. I was reading stuff about the last day, the final closing of the dinosaur ride that's going to become Indiana Jones.
Right.
And they mentioned that even on the last day, let alone all the weeks leading up to it, the number of shutdowns and evacs and animatronics not working was going up and up
Of course.
up. And the attitude was, well, why bother to fix it? We're going to close it in 3 months anyway.
Well,
But what happens when that becomes years? And what happens when, like with the Jungle Boat, they go through and fix some things, but not other things?
yeah.
Or when they announce something has come back from refurb and a week later it's closed again. There's a lot of penny wise, pound foolish maintenance decisions being made. And
well, they did that on pirates for a long time, historically, especially in California. That's a different conversation. But before we move forward, we've had enormous generosity from our good friend Staccato DDS out
oh
there.
my God.
I feel like I just got loaded down with 50 in cash here.
Staccato, as I'm sure you understand, that fills an enormous cavity in our lives, and we appreciate it.
It does. It does.
Can we rinse now?
Please read.
But knowing Bob Iger way too well, he was in a shitstorm that hasn't blown our way yet. Absolutely.
So true.
But you wonder what these guys. I mean, for God's sakes, when you're richer than Midas, why don't you just say thanks a lot and go have fun?
Well, Uncle Bob was set up to do that, right? Because on his march out the door with every other CEO in 2020, 2019, as everybody was abandoning ship because they saw the writing on the wall and it got wind of something that was going on half a world away, they bailed, and he was set up forever. The guy had just completed the build on that enormous piece of yacht. He was in position to eventually acquire that women's soccer team, football team, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And he and Aunt Willow were going to go off and have a happy life. And she would have been out of our hair at USC, but, directing journalism in the worst way possible. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Willow was never a journalist. And Bob was an awful weatherman. So, of course, they got put in positions of authority because that's how the Peter principle works.
And you see, that's where, that old thing about the rich are different than the rest of us. You or I would say a life of enormous wealth and leisure with a yacht and a nice house and a wife and Dayenu, that's enough.
Yeah.
But not these people.
Literally.
Their whole idea of fun is 2 showers a day, a hippo, and giving orders.
Well,
so that's their character flaw.
Yeah, I can't fight with 2 showers a day. I just can't.
Well,
I just don't I don't think it's good practice, and HR probably was worried that Bob taking a shower in his office may lead to some problems in the future. But hey,
that's above my plumbing ability to comprehend. But,
Mandalorian is correct though. The board was definitely hedging their bets. Gorman, I expected so much more.
I am telling you, 40s Mandalorian, that nobody believes, not really, that they're going to win the midterms. And the proof of it, all the people retiring. They don't like being the party out of power, and they don't want to run again just to be the party out of power for another couple of years. Look at the huge number of retirements. If they thought they had a chance of getting back in charge, they'd stick around. They want to get out and get a consultant job or a of counsel job with a law firm or whatever they can get before the ultimate crap hits the aerator.
You're right, because again, they know that every single thing going forward, especially in the next year when we get to the midterms, those are going to be under tremendous scrutiny, just like the previous election
Well, and
was.
look, if this SAVE Act goes through, and I know we're a showbiz show, not
Yeah,
a
sorry,
politics
and
show.
I can't believe for the life of me Thune would let it go through. He's such a traitor, backstabbing person.
But
Go ahead.
let's see what happens, because somebody, I think this was CNN, they did a poll and they found that like 80% of
82.
Republicans,
82%.
but also like 78% of Latinos and 79% of blacks and everybody else.
Yeah.
The only people who are against it are the people who want to steal votes.
Well, and again, those would be the people in power, and the uniparty has never been more unified ever. So it is what it is, and we don't want to talk politics on the show. We want to say thank you to Tom for creating something that we can listen to when we're done with our show. He's been making lots of things for us in the background, so I just want to say thank you to our mod.
Yes.
Tom. Let's also say thank you to our friend Mark Daly. You guys are extraordinarily generous this evening. My goodness. Can you read this one, my friend?
R.I.P. Brad Arnold. Pour out one for the guy, nice guy, 3 doors down, taken too soon. Not my time. Help me rally at my lowest point. He also wrote, Citizen Soldiers, remember Brian by remembering those who risk all to keep us safe. Amen is my response. Amen.
Amen indeed. And look, in Brad Arnold, I mean, there's a list of people that are gone too soon right now. I don't know if you've noticed this, but just, between Hollywood and musicians and everybody else, I've never heard of more people leaving us so very quickly all of a sudden.
I don't know that that's an actual quicker than before. It's that we hear about it.
Well, maybe that's true.
In the age of the information behemoth, and I got to tell you,
okay,
I get a little tired of seeing things come up in my YouTube feed. So-and-so's cause of death revealed.
Yeah,
whose business is that? I understand it's public record, and I understand people have a ghoulish desire to know, but it's like, I'm sorry, Catherine O'Hara is not here anymore. I don't really want to know what it was that killed her.
Unfortunately, I know, and it's the same thing that just took James Vanderbeek.
Well, there you go. But
yeah, and again, I'm going to talk about James tomorrow morning, but I want to talk about somebody you already mentioned, and I think you probably crossed his path. I know he crossed my path. And he was a solid businessman, still has a keen eye for what is going to work and what isn't. And he put together such an incredible team in his time at Disney that he built new things, including new studios. That way Disney didn't have to stay purely family friendly. He created things like Touchstone Pictures, Hollywood Pictures, and a third nameplate that eventually became synonymous with some very bad attention that we probably don't want to mention. But we can mention him. His name is Michael Eisner. He was the former Disney CEO. He congratulated Josh D'Amaro amid the leadership change at Disney. And this is what happens every time there's a changing of the guard. And the person on the way out, and Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to always get like an awards season to celebrate them.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll tell you, I met him and talked with him a few times, Eisner. But the time that he most impressed me was at the premiere of Fantasmic at Disneyland and at the press conference for that. And somebody said all the talk then was about the Strawberry Field and the third gate and all that stuff. And wouldn't Walt have done it? And Eisner said, you have to understand something. Walt was a genius. Walt created this company. Walt's vision and guidance are with us today, but Walt had much less to lose. Right. If it had all gone belly up, it wouldn't have been that much different than when he started. He said, I don't have that luxury.
No. Yeah.
I have to be here to preserve what's here rather than just take a flyer on something. And that was a level of sophistication and leadership that he had that very few have had since. So,
well, yeah, because they lack that level of self-awareness. And we're seeing that in corporations across the country and around the globe. It's not just a US problem.
And it's not just the bosses, it's people at every level. I know more people who are in positions of authority on TV shows and movies and one thing or another that haven't got the skills. but somehow they had the influence or caught the right moment to get the job. And once they have the job and the title and the money, who am I to tell them they don't know what they're doing? Because,
indeed.
So there's a self-fulfilling ego prophecy going on with these people. And most of them are not, as you said, self-aware enough to understand.
Yeah, but he was, and think about all the brilliant people he worked with, right? And when they got frustrated with him because Wells was gone, and that's the only reason that these other three great names left the Disney company, is because Wells was gone. Wells was the intermediary that kind of kept the creativity flowing, as far as I know. Maybe you know differently, but you need Disney to have two very competent people in positions of authority that complement each other, and Wells was that for Eisner. It gave Eisner a huge amount of latitude to operate, much like Walt did.
And what it gave Eisner, which is what Roy gave Walt, was somebody to say, okay, that sounds good, but what if we're wrong?
Yeah, that's
something
true.
that Bob doesn't have,
reflection
has
point.
never had, has gone out of his way to avoid having. Nobody asked that question. Nobody's allowed to ask that question. Even if, no, we're not wrong, you have to think about what if to understand why you're right. But those questions don't come up in that boardroom. They just don't.
There's no consigliere. And that's kind of what, again, I'm going to keep saying it, Wells was, and it's the same thing that Walt's brother was, Roy, to him, and generationally, he passed that wisdom and that approach to his son, who made the big push to, move Iger into the position of authority, or Eisner into the position of authority, and get rid of his son-in-law. Oh my gosh, that is such a tragedy. In the Disney company in the first place. So there are multiple times that the Disney family got involved in the future of the company until it just completely fell out of their hands.
Well, so it is the blessing and the curse of the era when the guy that started its name was on the front door, whether it was Ford or Disney or Chrysler, or rather than Unisys, or all of these anonymous names. It's got to be, the shopkeeper matters, the guy whose name is on the front door. So
yes, and that's the difference. It's building in ownership, and Eisner actually continued to do that. He wasn't Walt; he knew it, and obviously you just talked about him not knowing it and all that self-awareness. At the same time, he built in more ownership. He created a different way of doing films. If Roger Rabbit would never have happened without this man.
Yes.
The developments in Disney and the deals he wrote truly changed the way the company could operate. He gave us he pushed hard on developing another theme park location. That's how you ended up with the Hollywood Studios, because he wanted to be Universal to the punch before they could move in with their first park in Florida. He was like, these guys are competition. Let's not.
And the number one way he did that is Reedy Creek. And the reason is that, unlike building codes everywhere else in Florida and pretty much in the world, Reedy Creek allowed overlapping inspections. Anybody who's ever built any kind of building knows you get it to a certain point, then you have to call in the electrical inspectors or the plumbing inspectors or the whatevers, and you sit around twiddling your thumbs for a week and a half waiting for them to show up. That never happened building Hollywood Studios, because they didn't have to wait.
No,
and that made a huge difference in the speed with which that was built. They started after Universal, and they still opened first.
And they owned the construction company, which is helpful, Buena Vista, and they owned the comptroller in Reedy Creek. So it's kind of easy to get your stuff through all the processes and to get the inspections ordered so that they can run over each other. The inspectors literally running over each other when they're trying to get something done.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And then, of course, the next guy said, well, let's take it to a whole new level of dare I say, power madness. And they screwed the pooch and made the whole thing fall apart.
Well, they were too oriented around being a real estate developer than they were about being a theme park company. And this cow is still giving us great milk. So we're going to milk it. We're not going to feed it. We're just going to milk it. And I think that's the biggest.
Yeah, but when they started getting bondholders in the world out there to pay for parking lots and all the rest of it, that kind of stepped over the line.
Oh, wow. A piece of information I'm grateful to know. Thank you for sharing this with us, Karen.
Ooh.
Karen is amazing. Knows a
Yes,
lot.
Yes, she is.
Lot. She says that Eisner just did an interview with Graham Bessinger, who usually has athletes on his shows. Well, that's good news. I'm going looking for that when we're done tonight.
Me too.
So thank you for that.
Me too. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, she's amazing. So, look, everybody here tonight, I just want you to know how very much we appreciate you. For the 178 of you across multiple platforms, thank you for joining us. We are truly appreciating it. But and again, I don't want to I don't want to undercut the point that Mark was making earlier by bringing up James Vanderbeek, but I just want to say R.I.P. to Brad Arnold, indeed.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, there are certain people that cross our paths that change our lives, whether we realize it or not. And so, and since, tomorrow's never guaranteed, be thankful in the
and
moments.
If nothing else, they set the bar which those behind them must pass higher.
True story. Yeah. And look, everybody here contributing to the chat right now. I just want to say thank you because, it's wonderful to bounce off your comments, take a look at them, add them into the show. But speaking of adding something into the show, I'm going to mention one more time before we get into the last story. I think we're going to have time to cover. I just want to say you need to check out what Lou's doing over on his Patreon.
Oh, well,
Lou,
you
should probably tell people about that.
Well, what I do there is whatever I don't get to do here. And by that, I don't mean I ignore showbiz. I present the showbiz part of what I do, and it's only one part, from a point of view of what can you in your job, in your business, learn from what these guys are doing. Because some people think, well, they're them and I'm little me and there's no connection. I'll show you how it works. I also talk about food and wine and old stories and anecdotage. And in fact, you know what I should do? I should tell that story. I'm going to tell it on the Patreon, but I mentioned it during one of the shows earlier this week because we were talking about Bad Bunny and Puerto Rican culture. Mm-hmm. My Puerto Rican culture story. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
I was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in my guise as a food, wine, and travel writer, and staying at the
Carib,
at the Carib Hilton, which is the classic old hotel there where they invented the pina colada, among other things. And I was there because I was about to get on a cruise ship, the wonderful Radisson Diamond, this fantastic catamaran cruise ship, and go across the Atlantic on their what they call repositioning cruise to San Juan, Puerto Rico. That's where I was starting, to Lisbon, Portugal. 16 days across the Atlantic. And people said, what are you going to do for 16 days? I said, nothing, elegantly. And it was honestly the best rest I ever had in my life. But I'm at the hotel. I'm interacting with this lovely young lady who's the PR person at the hotel. And it happened to be Thanksgiving. And she said, I'm supposed to get you to try all our restaurants and, write about, but it's family and you're away from your family. And my mother and I would like to invite you to come to our house for Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
And so she took me to her mother's home, which was in this beautiful old Spanish style in the heart of San Juan. And her mother, I want you to imagine physically Cinderella's evil stepmother, but not evil. But I mean, the hair up in the bouffant, the elegant clothing.
Yeah.
When she walked into the room, you wanted to hear, maracas clicking. She had this ultimate Spanish regalia about her, and she was very elegant and very sweet and very nice. And we were talking. And I said, it's interesting to me. I've never been here before. I said, but I was born and grew up in Los Angeles. And I know a lot of folks of various Latin cultures, not just Mexico, but Central America and whatever. Right. I said, but somehow the people here seem very different to me. It's like a whole different Latino culture. And this elegant, beautiful Lady, can I say a dirty word on here? I forget.
No, you're not allowed to say a bad word.
All right, well, then I will abbreviate. This elegant lady, with all of her regal charm, looked at me and said, "That's because we didn't blank the Indians."
Well, look, I mean,
her daughter turned about 12 shades of purple, I smiled.
Except I understand that. That's Castilian Spanish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, so much for Bad Bunny.
No.
And again, got away. But anyway,
but it's the truth, and that's what most people don't understand. That's Castilian Spanish. That's purebred.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're talking Spanish with green eyes. This is. I
was in Puerto Vallarta, and this lady who was in charge of this Mexican hotel chain she had an Irish last name. And the reason was, we have to remember that in the Industrial Revolution and thereafter, a whole hell of a lot of Scots and Irish engineers came to Mexico to do mining work. And that's where her family had come from, you know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's a small world after all.
Hey, it is, and that's a great story. It gave me a chance to recollect all the various Hispanic cultures that
I got on that boat
in my life. So.
And it was supposed to hold about 700 people, and there were only about 400. And because it was a repo cruise, you know, they spend half the year in the Caribbean and half the year in the Mediterranean.
Repositioning,
going in between. Yeah. So a lot of people weren't on it, but oh man, there was a chair. Up on the top deck, under shade, next to a bar. I just sat there. And what was interesting was, in those days, I had the run of the boat because I was, special. And so I got to know the captain, and you go on the bridge, and they have this massive, about almost 4 foot in diameter, round radar screen. And there's a trackball. And you find something else out there in the radar, and you roll the trackball over and you push it. And it tells you the speed and the direction and the closing and whatever. And I said, aren't there shipping lanes anymore? He said, no. Once you get out of the harbor, you plug in where you're going, and everything in between is just keep an eye out for everybody else.
That's true.
And so in 16 days, I think we saw 4 ships.
Yeah, and repositioning cruises or stretches like that I love, because like you, unlike our friend Sean,
I'm not into ports. I'm not into beaches. I'm into just the sea breeze and the view,
Me too, but
I don't
unlike
need a
our friend Sean in the chat gets seasick. I don't. I love the ocean.
I never
open
have.
Ocean especially, and I love sailing. So I'm really weird. Like I will single man a catamaran across the ocean. I am one of those guys, right? So
this was really special. And then you get into Lisbon.
Oh,
and you go there. You go to the Intercontinental Hotel, which you have to understand was built by Lisbon, Portugal was all a dictatorship.
Yeah,
and was neutral during World War II. And so the dictator after the war said, you know what, I'm going to turn our country into a place for international conferences, and we're going to build this spectacular hotel. And he went around to, I think it was the 12 or 14 richest families, and said, you're going to pay for it. And they built a hotel. They took me everywhere, And when you went into the kitchen, which was enormous, bigger than most kitchens you can imagine, and on one wall, there was what looked like a bunch of phone booths. And what they were was one man and a cart elevators that went to all the floors to take room service up and down.
Oh, wow.
And then you sat there at the table, and the sugar bowl and the creamer were silver. And he said, yeah, they ordered those when they opened the hotel, but come with me. And he takes me down the hallway, and he unlocks a door, and there's still about a 30-foot square room full of them. They've never used them all up in all the years since 1948, 49, when this hotel opened up. And that was just the kind of crazy place it was. But if you ever go to Lisbon, and this is off on our wine thing again.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go to a place called the Port Institute.
Okay.
Now, the Port Institute is in it's almost like, when on The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Del Florio's tailor shop down under the stoop. It's like that. But you go in, and there's a whole bunch of little couch and 2 chairs, couch and 3 chairs, 2 couches, little sitting areas all over this room. And the music is like the Holly Ridge Strings play the Beatles. I mean, it's so... But what they're pouring is samples for no money. I mean, a couple of bucks a glass
Yeah.
of all the best ports in the history of port.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't understand, a port is a dessert wine primarily. So it's got a little muscle to it, and they're delicious.
It's a fortified wine. It's wine to which
fortified. I call it a dessert wine.
Yeah, no, it's had some brandy added to it, and then aged. And in the old days, the British were the biggest customer, and they used to say that having it on the ship going from Portugal to England, aging it in the casks at sea made it better. And now people are doing bourbon that way and just literally sending it out to sea and bringing it back. But anyway, we could go on about that all day long.
Right.
Too.
And speaking of which, Sean wants to. So Sean sends us this, Lou.
Yeah, a really fine port is a thing of beauty and a joy forever. And if not, I would go with something that was white but had enough acid to make it crispy. You don't want it too sticky sweet, you know?
And if you're going to do it yourself, which I have done, a pomegranate port is one of the best things you could ever create. It is.
I have to try that sometime because I've never had it.
It's delicious. It'll knock your socks off. And that's a good thing.
A good muscat, a good, as long, again, the secret is not cloyingly sweet. The secret is a crispy finish.
Yeah. A bite.
A little bit of grapefruit at the end of the fruit. So anyway.
And if you're looking for something in the States, there's a small winery that has some, interesting, what would you say? The vineyard's owned by a rock star, but it's Dos Cabezas makes probably one of the best. Which is better than one. It makes one of the best ports I've ever had in my life. So there's.
But speaking of things in the States,
let's get
away from the wine. Yeah, let's go to this crazy story I found. What do you say?
And we can. That's the problem is we are easily distracted. I feel like I'm like squirrel.
It's a wonder through the annals of history and time and space,
or the very dark spaces.
Let this show be your TARDIS. Let this show be bigger on the inside than it looks from the outside, and traveling time, space, and whatever. But
all right,
I want you to imagine before you even put the story up. Let me just tell you, folks.
All right,
you might have seen it. I'd never heard of it, but apparently there is a quiz show, so to speak, a game show called The Floor. And it's all about 100 people standing in their own little boxes on a big floor, and they pick somebody at random and they quiz each other, and whoever wins takes over their part of the floor. And the idea is to dominate the entire floor. Okay? American show. Rob Lowe is the host, made by an American company.
So it's Human Otello.
But it's 100 participants, all American, and they shoot the show in Dublin, Ireland, because it is somehow cheaper to fly 100 people from LA over to Dublin to make this show than it is to shoot it in Studio City.
Okay, so here we go, and that makes no sense. But we're going to jump into the story from our friends over at Red State. And when I say that, I actually have a friend that works for Red State,
and I'm going to be writing this up for the TPP.
Fantastic! So I'm looking forward to it. So Tinseltown Exodus. Why Hollywood is bolting the Golden State? Yeah. I think you and I both know why.
Because the rent is too damn high.
It's $11 billion to make something. So Rob Lowe, like you said, is making this show. He's been involved in it.
And I looked it up. They're into season 4 already. It didn't it just happened yesterday. So
and actor Adam Scott's been in there, and they handled this for, I guess, who's making this? Fox? Goodness. So the host of the Fox Network game show, The Floor, and Scott was jarred when Rob let it be known that they filmed the program entirely in Dublin. That's crazy.
They fly 100 people over to Dublin from LA.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's cheaper because of the tax breaks and because of the cost of labor and whatever else.
So it's cheaper to bring 100 people from America,
and not stars, just everyday folks, and
like
give them travel and per diems and hotel rooms and all the rest of that stuff. And I was looking into it, and they said they all bring a double of their outfits so they can shoot this show in a few days. But even so, and the prize for the show is $250,000 if you win the season.
So,
And
what do you think this costs them to make?
obviously, less, as they say.
Well, no, but I mean,
Uh,
what do you think? Like 1.5 million to make this show?
oh, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's shooting it over several episodes in a day, but
Right, but they're I mean, they're also, I mean, you just move people from
well,
place
that
to
it's
place.
it's now in season 4 means it's obviously
It's
in good
profitable.
hands and successful. So,
Yeah.
but the idea, just when I read that, I said, "What? It's cheaper to go there." I mean, that, and we're not talking going to Atlanta where there are tax breaks, or going even to Canada where there are tax breaks, but Dublin, Ireland. Um, hmm.
Well, there's a reason for this. And look, as much as I'm going to pull this down. As much as I appreciate my friends who work in the unions, and I still have friends that work in things. We have people that watch us that work in the industry. All I can say is, as somebody like one of the guys I know runs a lighting company. The electrics is where the money's at, if you really want to know. But the problem is that they cost too much money. They can go over here and get the same level of professional performance.
Well,
Hey,
yeah, but they're still importing American hosts and American writers and whatever.
I'm
So,
talking about the people who do the things that the SAG-AFTRA people do. I'm talking
well,
about the
yeah,
below the line
yeah.
guys. So
All I can say is it's been a while, but I have made shows in the UK, and they just suddenly stop for a tea break when it's time, whether you want them to or not, and it's
yeah,
very
but that is
frustrating.
still cheaper.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's just your schedule. There's a very, I hate to call it this, but a manana attitude that drives Americans a little nuts sometimes. But
Well,
you get used to it.
okay, so the most relevant part of this entire conversation is in this story talking about there's this 3 consecutive years of Hollywood having fewer production starts on both film and television outside of the pandemic. Since basically the shutdown, since 2020, they've lost production starts. And
Right.
you can't blame any of it on, the global crisis that we went through. They're losing production starts because they're too expensive.
And as I've pointed out before, in the case of benefits, and we've got negotiations about to start and all the rest of it, in the case of the big 3, SAG, AFTRA, Directors Guild, and Writers Guild,
Yeah.
your benefits for both health plan and pension are based on the dollars you make.
Yeah, you have to pull in revenue. You have to
But
actually contribute
in the
to
case
revenue.
of the IA, which is everybody below the line, the grips, the electricians, everybody,
Right.
it's the hours you work that
Yeah.
vest you in those plans. And let me tell you something, the fact that all these TV series, oh, I got a new series. Yeah, how many episodes? 8, 10, not 24, not 26, not like there used to be even 30 some odd. It used to be if you got on a regular show and it was a hit, you needed maybe a pilot or 2 to make your number for the year. Now, I don't know. It's awfully hard. And that's why I was cynically and probably not very nicely saying that this whole issue of the negotiations and the money for the pension and health plans was kind of a going to fix itself, in the sense that there'll be fewer and fewer people working, which means there's fewer and fewer people qualifying for the benefits, which means they don't need as big a bankroll to pay the benefits. That's not a good thing for the people, but the math all works out.
But also the math works out if they can get deals that go 5 years instead of 3.
Ain't going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
In fact, the president of the Directors Guild, Christopher Nolan, has already said ain't going to happen.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, it was great that the DGA tried to pretend they were on the side of SAG, but they're not. The Writers Guild's going to be the one that's going to stir this pot the worst. And
SAG pretty good at that too. So don't.
Well, okay, but my bet this time is it's the Writers Guild.
Just remember, everybody out there who doesn't understand this, there are 2 pieces to the puzzle of every one of these guilds. There are the members, which is where you hear the president, whether it's Fran Drescher or Sean Astin or whoever, or Christopher Nolan. And then there is the staff, which are the executive director and the field reps and the secretaries and the accountants and all those people. And one of the reasons why the Directors Guild has always prevailed
They always sign their bill first.
Well, the reason is that they know how to compute the numbers so that if somebody comes up with a proposal on either side, they know what it's actually going to cost.
Right.
Often the producers who propose it don't and have to defer to the guild's numbers as to what it's going to cost because they're just that much more because remember, Directors Guild is not just directors. It's production managers. It's assistant directors. It's the people who do the logistics of making a movie happen. So.
Well, and Sean's right here. I mean, that's why they love, working in the UK.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, look, this time around, I still think it's the writers that are going to screw it up, but it could be the actors. I don't know.
Well, the writers.
It's not going to be the directors. The producers guilds are like, why are we quibbling? We need to make things.
Well, but the producers, the one thing you've got to remember, and I've told this before too, but I'm going to say it again, they hate each other.
Yeah.
They negotiate as a group. It is collective bargaining, but inside they hate each other.
They don't like each other.
With a passion you cannot imagine. And so they're out to cut their own throats as much as they are to make a deal overall. So,
and again, oftentimes they're going to make the deal for themselves and not care where the other guilds land.
Well, I mean, even little things. One year that I was involved in one of the negotiations was the year that Universal and NBC merged. So there was an HR person from NBC and an HR person from Universal. And they both knew that next year one of them wouldn't be there.
So we saw that replicate itself in the capital cities ABC.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, they're on the same side, but they're not.
Nope.
And so, God, someday we will have to do a whole show just telling the most famous crazy negotiation like this of all time, which was back in 70. I forget what year. But
82 was pretty wild from my recollection.
Yeah, but it was actually, it might have been 82, but it was referring back to the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to tell it, but we're kind of at the end of our hour. So
I knew we were gonna go long the minute we got here, but
it just shows you the kind of short-sightedness, let's call it, and politics.
And here's the thing, Sean, you're right. GE was very excited to get rid of NBC because GE's philosophy was to be in the top of every industry they participated in. And that included
we bring good things to light. NBC, not so much.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, but that was one of the governing principles of GE. So whenever they got into the business of, let's say, making washers, they were going to make the best washer. There's nobody else would be better. And so they studied whatever business they were planning to get into. They studied it from the ground to the ceiling. So they understood all of the different things they'd have to do to make sure that they were
the
best.
Perhaps more importantly, when we refer to things like the overpaying for Fox on the part of Disney, if they saw they couldn't do the best at a price that would make sense, they didn't pursue it.
No.
You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, all that kind of good song.
They were really good at it. That GE was one of the best.
Welch,
and again, it comes out of the founder, which we could talk about another time. But anyway, I just want to say, Lou, I never stop learning from you. So thank you for sharing with us.
Well, as I keep saying, everybody says such nice things, and I appreciate them, and I really, really do appreciate the adulation, or at least admiration. But look, I'm a guy that's been around a long time, plan on sticking around for a long time more.
I hope so.
It's been in a lot of the right place at the right time and paid attention and have a memory. You would be astounded. Well, maybe not after listening to me, but otherwise, how many people who are in every bit of position to do what I've done and be able to tell you what I could tell you, except I feel like the Wizard of Oz, like there are men out there with no more wisdom than I've got, but there's one thing I've got they haven't got, a memory and common sense.
It's true.
And they just don't pay attention very well. And
speaking of which, did you see that they're going to put the Wizard of Oz back on network television
Well, sure. Why not? They have to get something out of the deal. I mean, it's free.
It's coming
It's
back.
free.
It's
And
coming back.
and one of the curious little I'll give you a really wonderful movie trivia factoid that I learned when we did the very first Genre Guys, this many year and a half, 2 years
Oh,
ago.
wow. It's been a while. Yeah.
Which was Forbidden Planet. You know all those wild and crazy plants in the alien garden on Forbidden Planet? They're from Munchkin Land. They've been boxed up and put away, and they said, hey, we can use these again. So there you go. Nothing gets thrown away, right? Or nothing.
Well, especially in a prop shop or a Foley location. Oh,
well, but we have this expression called fold and hold, and they put them in boxes and put them someplace on the back lot, and stuff gets held onto until the back lot disappears, which in that case was MGM. So yes, it did disappear.
Yeah, if you ever went into a Foley studio and you opened a closet door, you were in for a surprise, because
if you go into a Foley studio, you're sure of a big surprise. Is that what you're trying to say? But well, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's true. All right. For those of you out here who are here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to T3PO. There's a lot of great reasons to do so. Lou is chief among them, but there are a lot of wonderful shows that are broadcast here. And we appreciate you. I love hosting the show with Lou. I can't say anything other than I would be a member of this man's Patreon if I had to, but unfortunately I have direct access to him, so I get to steal his thoughts for free. Anyway, you should definitely check out his Patreon, and if you're
lewsviews at Patreon, so
there you
go.
There you go, and check out tonight's. Check out tonight's. Didn't mean to talk over you. Check out tonight's description so that you can not miss out on some amazing music.
Golly, yeah,
from the past.
Ennio Morricone. Oh man. For a little Italian boy, he sure understood the West. I'll tell you what, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe he described it and invented it, and we all just pretended it was real.
He's in so many scores. Anyway, we got to get running. But thank you all for this evening. I think I was supposed to push a button. This never works out well for me. Okay, I'm gonna try to end the show.
Button, Max.
I'm
20 points if you know what movie that is.
I'm pushing the button. Hang on. I'm going to do this. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Good night. Thank you.
Great Wednesday evening. Okay, it didn't work.
You need Jack Lemmon. You need Dr. Fate.
I do. I need Jack Lemmon. Jack Bauer. I'd take Jack Bauer right now. All right.
And so what we've tried to do is really bring that shape language from the architecture. But what we love to talk about at WDI is shape language. And we often refer to shape language.
There's such iconic shape language in Spaceship Brevity Attraction. We really wanted to make sure that we fused to that throughout the space.